All right, everybody, buckle up. We're about to get philosophical today, diving deep into the mind of Marcus Aurelius. You know him, you love him, or maybe you're about to. He's the emperor who just happened to be a Stoic philosopher, too. Talk about a side hustle. And, lucky for us, he left behind some seriously insightful writings, his meditations.
It really is remarkable when you think about it. These writings, these meditations, they weren't some self-help bestseller meant for public consumption. They were his personal journal, basically.
Imagine having the Emperor of Rome's diary land on your desk. But that's exactly what makes it so fascinating, right?
Right.
No filter, just raw, unfiltered thoughts on how to navigate life straight from the guy wearing the purple robes.
Exactly. And one of the themes that jumps out, particularly in this excerpt we're exploring today, is the Stoic idea of impermanence. Quote 31, if you're following along, really drives this home. Aurelius talks about receiving good things, those moments when things are going your way, receiving them without ostentation.
Without ostentation. It's not exactly a phrase you hear every day. What's he getting at there? Does that even look like in our modern world? Is it like resisting the urge to immediately post about your new phone before you even figure out how to use the camera?
Well, yeah. It's easy to get caught up in wanting to shout our good fortune from the rooftops or, Instagram. But Aurelius is urging us to consider a different approach. See, Stoicism, it's not about suppressing joy. It's about understanding that everything changes. Good, bad, everything is in flux. It's about finding a sense of peace and knowing that nothing lasts forever.
So enjoy that new phone, but maybe don't get too attached because, there's always a newer model right around the corner, right?
Exactly. And on the flip side, when we're facing those inevitable challenges, when things aren't going our way, well, knowing that those difficult times won't last forever can be incredibly powerful.
That's a really helpful perspective shift. Instead of clinging to the good or dreading the bad, it's about finding that balance, that acceptance of life's ebb and flow.
Exactly. And that leads us to another key theme in Aurelius's writing, interconnectedness. He uses this incredibly powerful metaphor in quote 32, comparing someone who isolates themselves to a severed hand or foot. It's a bit jarring, but it gets the point across, doesn't it?
It's like he's saying that we're not meant to go through life alone. That cutting ourselves off from others, whether it's through holding grudges, dehumanizing those we disagree with, or just retreating into ourselves, it goes against our very nature.
Absolutely. We're social creatures, wired for connection. Aurelius firmly believed that we thrive when we embrace our shared humanity, recognizing that we're all part of something much larger than ourselves.
It's like we're all pieces of a giant puzzle, and when we try to force ourselves out of the picture, the whole thing falls apart.
Exactly. And, this idea of interconnectedness is more relevant today than ever. In an increasingly polarized world where it's easy to get caught up in us versus them thinking, remembering that we're all part of this human family, it's not just some feel-good notion, it's essential.
We need each other. Plain and simple. But even with all the connection in the world, life throws curveballs. Yeah. And speaking of challenges, Aurelius had a really thought-provoking take on obstacles, which we found in quote 33. It's kind of like that saying when life gives you lemons. But is he really advocating for passive acceptance? Just grin and bear it. Yeah. Even when things are tough.
Not at all. It's not about simply accepting whatever comes our way. It's about recognizing that we always have a choice in how we respond. We may not be able to control the situation, but we can control our reaction to it.
So it's about finding the opportunity within the obstacle itself, that job loss that forces you to reevaluate your career path, maybe leading you to a job you find way more fulfilling.
Precisely. Difficulties, even those that seem insurmountable at the time, can become catalysts for growth, for resilience, for discovering hidden strengths we never even knew we had.
So it's about shifting our perspective, looking for those silver linings, those glimmers of possibility, even in the midst of challenges.
Exactly. It's about adopting a mindset that allows us to view obstacles not as roadblocks, but as detours that might actually lead us to a more fulfilling destination. And speaking of mindset, Aurelius had some really practical advice for dealing with something I think we can all relate to. That pesky wandering mind.
Oh, tell me about it. I can work myself into a full-blown panic attack over something that hasn't even happened and probably never will. But our brains love to go there, don't they?
They do. It's easy to get caught in those thought loops, replaying past regrets or anxiously anticipating future worries. But in quote 34, Aurelius offers a different perspective. He emphasizes the power of focusing on the present moment, the here and now, because it's the only place where we truly have any agency.
It's like all that worrying about the past or the future is wasted energy. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but the present, That's where we can actually make a difference.
Absolutely. And this ties in beautifully with the principles of mindfulness, cultivating a practice of bringing our attention to the present experience without judgment.
So it's about quieting that inner critic, letting go of the what ifs and should haves, and focusing on what we can control in this very moment. Easier said than done though, right?
Oh, for sure. It's a practice, something we have to cultivate over time. But the more we can train our minds to be present, to appreciate the small wonders of each moment, the more peace and clarity we can find, even amid the inevitable chaos of life.
It's like hitting the pause button on that mental movie projector that's constantly replaying our worries and anxieties. But when Aurelius starts talking about legacy and the passage of time, things get, well, a little bit real.
Yeah, he definitely goes there. He takes us to a graveyard in quote 35 and asks us to imagine these figures from the past. Emperors, gladiators, philosophers, all gone. Their accomplishments, their struggles, their very existence fading into the mists of time.
A little unnerving, isn't it? It makes you confront your own mortality. Is he saying our lives are inherently meaningless because in the grand scheme of things, we're all just passing through? Like, what's the point of it all if everything eventually fades away?
That's a big question. And I don't think Aurelius is suggesting that life is meaningless. Instead, he's challenging us to examine our values, to consider what truly matters in light of our finite existence. Fame fades, possessions crumble, but the impact we have on others, the love we share, the kindness we offer, those are the things that resonate through time.
And we're back, still swimming in the deep end with Marcus Aurelius and his meditations. We've already uncovered so much about how this emperor-philosopher viewed the world and our place in it, but he was also big on self-reflection and making sure your head was on straight, especially in a world that constantly wants to distract you. And honestly, that's something we could all use a little help with, even today, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Stoics were all about that inner work, and I think this next part speaks directly to a challenge we face even now, centuries later. It's the idea of discernment, being able to sift through all the noise and figure out what really matters.
Right. And it feels like our world is only getting noisier, with information coming at us from all sides. Social media, news feeds, you name it. It's a constant barrage. How do we even begin to filter all that and make sound judgments when we're constantly being bombarded? Luckily, Aurelius offers some guidance on this in quote 36, where he talks about the importance of being quick-sighted in matter of judgment.
And it's not about jumping to conclusions, rushing to judgment. It's more about cultivating a kind of intellectual sharpness, a mental agility. Think of it like developing a muscle, but for your brain. Being able to quickly assess information, weigh different perspectives, and then, crucially, make decisions based on what you've observed.
So in a world of clickbait headlines and 247 news cycles, how do we even begin to train ourselves to be more quick-sighted in our judgments? Did Aurelius have any tips on how to avoid getting swept up in the constant flow of information?
Well, I think he'd say it starts with cultivating a healthy sense of skepticism. Not cynicism, but a willingness to question, to dig a little deeper, to look beyond the surface, because things aren't always what they seem.
So don't just accept everything you read online as gospel truth. Shocking.
Right. It's so easy to just passively absorb whatever's put in front of us, especially with those algorithms feeding us more of what we already agree with.
It's true. So how do we break out of our echo chambers? If we're trying to be more quick-sighted, we need to be exposed to a wider range of ideas and perspectives.
Exactly. It's about diversifying our information diets, so to speak. Who are we listening to? What are their biases? Are we getting a balanced view, or are we just reinforcing our existing beliefs?
It's like that old saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. We need a whole toolbox of different perspectives to truly understand the complexities of the world.
Absolutely. And that also means being open to being wrong, to having our minds changed, because learning is a lifelong journey. And the more open we are to new information, to different ways of seeing things, the richer that journey will be.
It's about embracing that growth mindset, that willingness to evolve our understanding as we encounter new information. Which sounds great in theory, but I think we both know it's a lot harder to put into practice, especially when we're so attached to our own beliefs.
Oh, absolutely. It takes conscious effort to challenge our own biases, to truly consider perspectives that differ from our own. It can be uncomfortable, but that's where the real growth happens, both intellectually and personally. And I think that's a key part of what Aurelius is getting at here. It's not just about being quick-sighted in our judgments, but also about being humble, open-minded, always willing to learn and adapt as we move through the world.
So it's like we're constantly calibrating our internal compass making sure it's pointed in the right direction. That's quite a bit to take in. This idea of discernment, it's both incredibly timely and timeless, wouldn't you say?
It really is, and it speaks to the enduring power of these Stoic ideas.
Yeah.
Because these aren't just abstract philosophical concepts. These are challenges that are woven into the fabric of human experience, regardless of the century.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. These words, written centuries ago, still resonate so deeply with the challenges we face today. But before we get too lost in the deep end of existential pondering, let's come back up for air and hear what you, our listener, took away from all of this. Welcome back, deep thinkers. We've journeyed through the mind of Marcus Aurelius, exploring his meditations and unpacking some seriously insightful stuff about navigating this thing we call life.
He really was ahead of his time, wasn't he? And to think, the guy was running an empire while he was pondering these big questions. Makes you realize even emperors had to deal with everyday anxieties and uncertainties, just like the rest of us.
Right. It's comforting in a way, knowing that even someone in Aurelius's position felt compelled to write down his thoughts and grapple with life's complexities. Makes those thoughts feel all the more relatable, you know?
Absolutely. And that's what makes this deep dive so enriching. We're tapping into a conversation about the human experience that transcends time itself. It's not every day you get to hang out with a Roman emperor, even if it is metaphorically.
And speaking of conversation, we want to hear from you, our listeners. What resonated with you during this deep dive into Aurelius's meditations? Any quotes or ideas that really stuck with you?
We've covered so much ground, from the importance of embracing impermanence to the power of shifting our perspective on challenges. What insights will you carry with you from this exploration?
For me, it's the reminder that we always have a choice in how we respond to life's curveballs. It's easy to get caught up in the frustration or disappointment of a setback, but Aurelius encourages us to look for the opportunity within the obstacle itself.
That's such a powerful concept. The Stoics were all about turning obstacles into fuel for growth. It's not about ignoring the difficulty, but rather about using those experiences as opportunities to cultivate resilience, wisdom, maybe even discover hidden strengths we didn't know we had.
And, you know, speaking of wisdom, I think Aurelius's emphasis on discernment feels especially relevant today. We live in a world saturated with information, and it can be tough to sift through it all and figure out what to trust, what to believe.
It's true. It's like we're constantly being bombarded with messages, each one vying for our attention, each one trying to shape our perception of the world. It's no wonder we sometimes feel overwhelmed or unsure of what to think.
Exactly. So how do we cultivate that quick-sighted judgment that Aurelius talks about? How do we cut through the noise and get to the heart of what really matters?
Well, I think it begins with cultivating a healthy skepticism. Not cynicism, mind you, but a willingness to question, to dig a little deeper, to look beyond the surface of things. It's about being discerning consumers of information, not just passively absorbing whatever comes our way.
So fact-check those headlines. Consider the source. Be wary of those echo chambers online.
Precisely. And be open to having your mind changed. Because true wisdom lies in recognizing that learning is a lifelong journey, and sometimes the most valuable lessons come from challenging our own assumptions and being willing to see things from a different perspective.
It's about constantly evolving, refining our understanding of the world as we encounter new information and experiences. And that's a process that never really ends, does it?
It doesn't, but that's what makes it so exciting. And, I think that's ultimately what Aurelius would want for us, to embrace the journey of self-discovery, to constantly seek wisdom and strive to live in accordance with nature, both our own and that of the world around us.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. But remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. Let Aurelius's words be a starting point for your own reflections on how to navigate life's complexities with wisdom, resilience, and a healthy dose of discernment.
And who knows, maybe someday someone will be deep diving into your words of wisdom. Until then, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the boundless possibilities of human thought.
And as always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
In this grind called life, we hold our heads high. Through the stormy skies, we never say die. Facing every challenge like a stoic knight. With every step forward, we ignite the night. Bounce back from the falls, never showing no fear. In the darkest moments, our minds stay clear. With a heart of iron and a steady aim, we charge through the pain, never seeking fame. Keep it moving, keep it strong. Push it forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on. Raise your voice and sing this song. From the valleys low to the highest peaks, we conquer the silence even when it speaks. Life's battles rage on, we never shy away, standing firm in the fray, each and every day. Rhythm of resilience pounding in our chest, fighting every battle, never taking rest. Stoic courage flowing in our veins, through the joy and through the pains. Keep it moving, keep it strong, push it forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on, raise your voice and sing this song. Bounce back from the falls, never showing no fear. In the darkest moments our minds stay clear. With a heart of iron and a steady aim, we charge through the pain, never seeking fame. Keep it moving, keep it strong, push it forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on, raise your voice and sing this song. Keep it moving, keep it strong, push it forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on, raise your voice and sing this song.
More money will only make you more of what you already are. More will only more quickly send you on to your destination. He said, if you're inclined to be unhappy, if you get a lot of money, you will be miserable. More money will only make you more. More money will only amplify. If you're inclined to be mean, and you get a lot of money, you will be a terror. If you're inclined to drink a little too much, when you get a lot of money, you can now become a drunk. So style is not more. Style is an art, a genius, a design. Lifestyle is reserved for those who are willing to study and practice the higher arts of life. Lifestyle is culture, music, dance, art, sculpture, literature, plays, concerts. Lifestyle is a taste of the fine, the better, the best. Mortimer Adler, the philosopher, says, if we don't go for the higher tastes, we will settle for the lower ones. So develop an appreciation for the fine. That is a worthy purpose. Developing an appetite for the unique things in life. Study the art and reach for the best. To have the best in the time we have available to us, that is the quest. Remember, it's not the amount, it's the imagination.
Be somebody. That's a good challenge. Be somebody. Be somebody wise. Be somebody strong. Strength is attractive. Be somebody kind.
Now consider this. Some people have plenty of beautiful things filling their days, but they get little happiness from them. Some people have money, but they have trouble finding joy in their lives. Imagine a father
It is better to be hated for what you are than to be loved for something you are not. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. The safest way to get what you want is to deserve what you want. Charlie Munger. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. Don't let anyone know what you're doing until it's done.
Freedom is the recognition that you are beyond all limitations. Nisargadatta Maharaj.
This time that is now present bestow thou upon thyself. They that rather hunt for fame after death do not consider that those men that shall be hereafter will be even such as these whom now they can so hardly bear with. And besides, they also will be mortal men. But to consider the thing in itself, if so many with so many voices shall make such and such a sound, or shall have such and such an opinion concerning thee. What is it to thee?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I am great. Listen to me, and I don't owe anybody an apology. I am phenomenal, and I don't owe anybody an apology. I am going to do great things, and I don't owe anybody an apology. I was created to be great. I was created to do great things. I was created to have great things, and I will no longer ask others for their permission. That Eric Thomas that grew up in Detroit and had like that Detroit mentality, while I love it, it doesn't transfer to every community. I had to let the dream destroy you. Let it strip you. Let it remake and mold you. Don't be afraid. Some of you are afraid. Listen to me. Wherever you from, if that's where you from, if you leave, you can always come back. I promise you. I promise you, when you come back, you can get right back in the conversation. Ain't nothing gonna change. I promise you, whatever world you're from, if you go to other worlds, you can always go back to that world. The version of you that you are right now is a blessing, but it won't take you to the next level. What got you here won't take you there. So let the dream destroy you, tear you down, redefine you, build you back up, make you stronger. The first version of Eric Thomas, the high school dropout, that guy would have never been able to stand here and help you. I had to destroy that Eric Thomas. No matter who you are, if you're average or if you're good, when you get around greatness and you stay around greatness, you start listening to great podcasts and reading great books, and you start hanging around great people, and you start becoming a part of great masterminds. God, you just evolve. And I don't know what happened, but every year I went from a high school dropout and homeless to I started to becoming every single day more of who I am. And I can't.
Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Accept what is. Let go of what was. Have faith in what will be.
Far better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much, because they live in a gray twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt.
Never put off till tomorrow the fun you can have today. A man only begins to be valued when he is no longer there.
Everything you need is within you, Muji.
To or against those who obstinately persist in what they have determined. When some persons have heard these words that a man ought to be constant, and that the will is naturally free and not subject to compulsion, but that all other things are subject to hindrance, to slavery, and are in the power of others, they suppose that they ought without deviation to abide by everything which they have determined. But in the first place, that which has been determined ought to be sound. I require tone in the body, but such as exists in a healthy body, in an athletic body. But if it is plain to me that you have the tone of a frenzied man and you boast of it, I shall say to you, man, seek the physician. This is not tone, but atony. In a different way, something of the same kind is felt by those who listen to these discourses in a wrong manner, which was the case with one of my companions, who for no reason resolved to starve himself to death. I heard of it when it was the third day of his abstinence from food, and I went to inquire what had happened. I have resolved, he said. But still tell me what it was which induced you to resolve. For if you have resolved rightly, we shall sit with you and assist you to depart. But if you have made an unreasonable resolution, change your mind. we ought to keep to our determinations. What are you doing, man? We ought to keep not to all our determinations, but to those which are right. For if you are now persuaded that it is right, do not change your mind if you think fit, but persist and say, we ought to abide by our determinations. Will you not make the beginning and lay the foundation in an inquiry whether the determination is sound or not sound, and so then build on it firmness and security? But if you lay a rotten and ruinous foundation, will not your miserable little building fall down the sooner, the more and the stronger are the materials which you shall lay on it? Without any reason would you withdraw from us out of life a man who is a friend and a companion, a citizen of the same city, both the great and the small city. Then, while you are committing murder and destroying a man who has done no wrong, do you say that you ought to abide by your determinations? And if it ever in any way came into your head to kill me, ought you to abide by your determinations? Now this man was with difficulty persuaded to change his mind, but it is impossible to convince some persons at present, so that I seem now to know what I did not know before, the meaning of the common saying,